of a heart attack. Before he died, he told Brother Bob, make sure you take care of Mom and your sister. So Brother Bob took that to heart. As the story goes, at the time Betty was dating a young man, but Bob didn't really think much of him. So consequently, he ended up pouring water in the guy's gas tank. Betty attended Multnomah College, Oregon State College, and the University of Minnesota. She met my dad, Edwin Woodworth Jr. at Oregon State at a mixer dance. And I'm not really sure where Brother Bob was at that time. I don't think he was supervising, so. But my future dad then traveled to Minnesota where Mom was finishing her degree in dietetics, and he asked her to marry him, and they got married in 1950. I'm glad Bob liked my dad when he did finally meet him. Betty became a registered dietitian, worked at the University of Oregon Health Sciences Center, which is now called OHSU, for a brief time. I remember on the day she had to work, it was early, and we had to pile in the car with my dad and two brothers and drop her off at work. Later, Mom transformed into a full-time homemaker. I didn't appreciate it at the time, but since I was the only daughter, she made all my clothes.
Wow.
Dresses, tops, pants, swimsuits. In fact, the skirt I'm wearing today is a skirt she made for herself years and years ago. It's beautiful. She also sewed curtains, bedspreads, pillows, and our all-time favorite was she made vacation shirts for the whole family. So when we went on vacation, they kind of like wore a Hawaiian shirt, but they all were the same color and pattern, and we all looked alike. So I think that was the idea of that was if one of us wandered off during our vacation, we knew they were gone. The other day I was just looking at some old family photos, and I found a picture of one edition of the vacation shirts, and I thought, gosh, those look a lot like the curtains we used to have. Cooking, food preparation, and supreme organization were where my mother shined. First, her organization. If she invited you over for dinner at 6 p.m., dinner was served promptly at 6 p.m. But if you didn't show up right away, she quickly heated it up when she said, I see the whites of your eyes. Her home was organized, and she used those organizational skills in all over her life. When we were all little kids, Mom and Dad purchased a waterfront lot at Lake Cushman near Hoodsport in the state of Washington. It was a bit daring, though, because Lake Cushman was still a long way from where it is today as a vacation spot. We had a lot, no cabin at the time. So, by the way, my mom was, the kind of camper she was. I guess you call it glamper. But we'll talk about more of that later. But when we go down the lake water and she'd put her toe in the lake, at that time there were all the little fish in the water. She didn't like that when the fish came and nibbled at her feet. At Lake Cushman, the outdoor lakefront area was her living room away from home. And it needed to be pristine. Rake in hand, my mom would go out there and rake all the rocks on the beach. She spent hours and hours especially grooming the beach. But then there were big fir trees above, and they would drop fir cones all the time, and so those had to be picked up. So she made sure they were picked up. This is why her brother called her beach rake Betty. When we first started to go to Lake Cushman, our family camped in a tent. One year we had a 14-day vacation, and the weather report was dire. It was, predicted to rain the whole 2 weeks. Brother Bob and his family also had a lot down the way from ours, but they were staying dry because they had a camper. We were stuck in a tent. After a couple days of constant rain, Brother Bob again told his sister, "There's no way you are going to last 14 days camping." That is just what my mother needed to hear and gave her inspiration. Glamper indeed. My dad rigged up some tarping overhead and wrapped some tarping around the trees. Betty spent a lot of time under those protective tarps and kept busy. She made apple pies in her Coleman oven that was on a propane stove. We ate well during that vacation, even though it was wet, and we stayed the full 14 days.
Yeah, it was epic rain, huge. Did we mention she was a good cook? Betty was a good cook? Anybody heard that before? No? Okay, well, her cooking was excellent. And to quote son-in-law Jeff, her cooking was so good, it was actually too good. Betty spent a lot of hours reviewing recipes from the Oregonian newspaper or from a new cookbook. She had her own system to rate recipes. She would either put VVG or VG, which standard for very, very good or very good. And if the recipe didn't meet muster, it got thrown away. It was discarded. My dad, on the other hand, had his own rating system for the recipes. It went something like this. Betty, don't bother to make that again. Fortunately, that didn't happen very often. The occasional recipe failure didn't deter Mom. In fact, it spurred her on to even more and better and new recipes. She actually taught all of her kids to cook. And Betty claimed that, at least for the boys, the reason was she couldn't get the food on the table fast enough. When she was entertaining, she was actually confident enough to try new recipes on guests. One time at Lake Cushman, Mom and Dad were entertaining Aunt Eudora and Uncle Lloyd. Now you have to understand, Uncle Lloyd and Aunt Eudora were extremely worldly. They had been to Asia, been to Europe. Uncle Lloyd had been an OSS agent. All these things. They knew what cooking was and cuisine was past in the world. So Mom found a recipe about cooking a roast underground, and it was actually the first time she used this recipe. And I remember the looks on their faces as she tossed dirt over their dinner. So Mom kept busy outside the home also. She was a member of the American Association of University Women, the AAUW, Bridge Club, and St. Paul's Episcopal Church Altar Guild. Typically, for the events, she would cook massive amounts of food, massive amounts of chicken tetrazzini, to be exact. And what was the description? Enough to feed an army? Or something like that for the church bazaar. If there was ever any argument in the family, it was debating on what the best recipe was, what the favorite recipe was. Choices were many: chocolate lush, gingerbread, cardamom bread, cinnamon rolls, tule like potatoes, lasagna, layered salad. I bet if we asked nephew Jeff, he'd say Aunt Betty's apple pie, right, dude? Okay, and the list could go on and on and on and on. Betty was always
toffee.
what?
English toffee at Christmas.
There's another one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Best.
The argument continues. Betty was always very proud and loving towards her family. But when 4 grandchildren appeared, Casey, Zach, Kelsey, and Kyle, Betty's love and caring skyrocketed. And here's some quick memories from the grandkids. Here's Casey. I love getting to her house for Christmas and smelling all the smells. Coffee and eggs and cinnamon rolls. Cardamom bread makes me think of her because that's the kind of bread she sometimes made. Zach. I have fond memories of trying to teach her all of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle characters when I was a little kid. And I always enjoyed it when she joined us in playing card games, especially at the lake. Kelsey. As a kid, watching Grandma at the lake with Aunt Lou drinking gin and tonics and laughing. I testify for that. That's a good one. Kelsey said she drank her first tonic water then. She also remembered playing Uno and Phase 10 card games with Grandma and said it was competitive but friendly in a good way. Kyle, at the lake cabin, Grandma and I were usually the first to get up. Coffee for Grandma, hot chocolate for me. And just the two of us, viewing the early morning stillness, and according to Grandma, just watching the world go by. As I got older and started playing guitar, Grandma always took the time to listen to my songs. Granddogs. As kids, we incessantly pestered our parents for a dog. And the usual answer was something like this: go ask your mother or your father. But somehow when the other one wasn't there, they said the other one didn't really want a pet. Well, the kids got even when they grew up. Over the years, we've had 17 dogs, 17 granddogs. And Betty embraced the family canine companions almost as close as the human versions. That's what she was. If you think Betty was ecstatic about her 4 grandchildren, she was over the moon with the arrival of great-grandchildren. Mom's faces light up anytime there's a baby, especially with her own great-grandkids. Betty loved, in no particular order, flowered shirts, sweaters and skirts, the color hot pink, chocolate, Reuben sandwiches, root beer, ice cream. I don't get this one. Music from Engelbert Humperdinck and Elvis Presley. Okay. Mom, words can't express the depth of our love for you or the gratitude for all the years you gave us. You were the heart of our family, and we'll cherish every memory we have of you. We'll miss you more than words can say, but your memory will be forever etched on our hearts. We love you, Mom.